Time is X minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's the Rocket Hour. Y'all are now tuned in. Time to hit the pick four that you'd love to win. If your money's coming slow, step on the faster track with your host, Ricky Pasternak. Let's go.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to a special edition of the Rocket Hour. This is our first Monday show, but it's not just a regular Monday. We have Martin Luther King Day, which means we have some special cards going on. We are in the middle of Aqueduct, so make sure if you haven't tuned in yet, still have the opportunity to do so at racingdudes.com. I have an article there right now with Aqueduct. Aaron's got his stuff with his premium picks as well. There's a lot of free information. But why are we here today? It's to preview Santa Anita for the first time on this show. We've kind of been stuck to Florida. I don't know why we've done that to ourselves, but today we are going to attack California. It was interesting when we were talking about this yesterday. You're like, I can't believe Gulfstream's not running. And I said, well, they do run 5 days a week. So they have to have a day off or a couple days off. So I guess that's their logic behind them not running today.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just greedy. I like Gulfstream the best this time of year, other than maybe Oakland when it gets started this week. So we'll talk about it a little bit coming up. But yeah, I think Santa Anita has provided us with enough entertainment today, though. And we've got Aqueduct, like you said. But Santa Anita's got a good card. And I think it's a sequence that you can make some money on that we're going to talk about, races 6 through 9. So yeah, I can give Gulfstream the day off today. That's okay. They need to rest up. Listen, they got a big weekend coming up anyway. You got the Pegasus coming up, so yeah, let them take a little break.
Yeah, it is a big weekend for them coming up. Like you said, Oakland also will be starting, I believe, on Friday. So we'll do that as a preview. We'll get into it. We'll talk about the schedule. We're going to get right into it. There are obviously some stakes races of the weekend, but we're going to kind of skip past those, and we're going to start with today's sequence. We'll pull up the entries here. They're starting in race 6. It's claiming for 25,000 through 22.5. A little tricky there. For 4-year-olds and upward, going 6 furlongs on the dirt. I will scroll our tickets. I have my pick 4, and Aaron's got his race by race, as he always does. We were kind of talking about this before the race, and I'll kind of let you start off, but I think we're both in agreement. There is a very, very, very vulnerable morning line favorite here. How did you kind of attack this race, and are you going to use Oil Can Night, the favorite, or are you going to kind of go somewhere else?
Yeah, I am not going to put Oil Can Night into the plays. This is a horse that, I would describe the horse as a hard knocker, right? Like at this level here at Santa Anita, at Del Mar, at Los Al, you're going to see this horse. You're going to see this horse entered a lot. But I just don't think a 2-to-1 shot here, I mean, as the favorite, I just don't like the horse. I had him ranked about 3rd or 4th, but not at the price. That was the big problem. I really thought it kind of came down to the 4 and the 7. I like that Rosario jumps on the 4. Yes, it's a John Sadler horse. So in that regard, it's like, okay, that's nice to see, and obviously they ride together, or that he rides for Sadler a lot. So it's not like a huge jump, but still, he hadn't been on this horse in the past. Now he jumps on. So I think that tells me that they've spotted horse greedy to win. So I thought about that horse for a while, but in the end, I went right back to the number 7 Octopus on top. Flavian Pratt jumps aboard as Rosario jumps off. Now, again, why I don't think that is a negative is Rosario's riding for Sadler. So it's not like he jumped off for another trainer that we haven't really heard of. But Flavian Pratt gets aboard, doesn't ride for this barn often, but when he does, the horses usually run pretty well. And, this was just a lot of horses that don't like to win when you really look through the past performances, especially recently. And Octopus coming right back, off of a win last time out at this level. And I really loved, the horse has speed, but he's drawn outside of all the other speeds. So it's really going to give him an option to go to the front or just sit off of a horse if they want to run early. I think Octopus trips out, and I think he gets 2 in a row today. So I did a $10 win wager on Octopus to start this card off.
Yeah, I have zero disagreements about Octopus, but I wasn't willing on the pick 4 ticket to single, and I'll ask you after I kind of go through the other 2 horses. I agree, Horse Greedy. To everything you just said, I do like the fact I like Juan Hernandez a lot, but when you're getting Joel Rosario, you're arguably getting one of the best riders in the game. And I also agree, in my opinion, I also think that Joel Rosario is a little bit better coming from off the pace, and I believe Horse Greedy will do that as well. So this is what I like to call a match made in heaven, just in terms of the riding style from the jockey and the way the horse likes to run. And I don't necessarily know if he's going to be closing, but he'll probably be 4th or 5th, I believe, in this spot. So I definitely think the 4 and 7 are the must-uses. If your ticket's a little bit bigger, I mean, I did play a relatively small ticket, only $36. I love the 5 Cartelate, and this is the reason why. I look at the rest of this field, and I think Cartelate at 10-1 has to go to the front. Okay, that's fine. You look at one major factor. He's the only horse that has run in 2021. Granted, you look at some of the other horses. The 1 ran recently within a month. Let's say within a month. The 3 ran within a month, and the 6 and 7. But I just love the fact that they're willing to roll this horse back in about a week's time, indicating that he's got something left, which I always like in certain situations. It's really, you got to take that with a grain of salt, I guess. This is a drop down in class for this horse. Personally, I think the connections are just kind of done with him, and that they're kind of dropping him in for this spot. I think this horse getting to the lead, the last time he was in something similar, let's call it 4 starts back at Golden Gate. Granted, those horses aren't as good. Well, he won by a head. So if we're kind of taking a look at the whole races after this, they were just much better. To your point, I think Oil Can Night is a horse that we would probably avoid. I didn't use him at all. You're not playing a win bet, especially because you're not going to get any win value. I believe the 4 and 7 are the better horses than the 5. In this dirt sprint, I just don't want Cartelate to beat me when I know he's going to be on the front end. Did you look at Cartelate at all? Are you completely off him? I don't love that Abel Cedillo's aboard, but I kind of am really liking the fact that he's going to come back so quick. And I think at 10-1 on the morning line, that's a price that I'll be willing to lose on.
I was shocked the horse was 10-1 on the morning line. I don't dislike him at all. I do think this is the horse that if Octopus does not get the lead, it'll be because the 5 Cartelate is out in front. I don't love the horse's form on dirt. That was one of the reasons I kind of thought no there. And also, I don't love coming back in 8 days either, especially with a claimer. It's that kind of gave me pause for concern. But I do think there is a situation where the horse takes this field gate to wire. He's a lot like his sire Golden Sense, right? You got to go to the front, and that's what you got to do with Cartelate. So, I think 10-1, if you get that price, I think he's definitely one to throw in to spice up the ticket. But for what I was trying to do, a 7-horse field. So I go, okay, I probably can't play a trifecta here because it's just not going to pay enough, especially because I like Octopus and Horse Greedy. So it was hard to get Cartelate involved with my wagering strategy. I think the best thing to do, if you're going to play him from my standpoint of a straight wager, is put him underneath in a try. If you're going to try to maybe single somebody on top, play a couple in second, play a couple in third, I could see this horse holding on for a minor award because I don't think he can take them all the way gate to wire. But what if he holds on and gets second and third and he's 10-12-1? Well, then you spiced up the try. So I did kind of toy with that. In the end, that's not really how I like to structure it. So I just kind of decided to leave him alone.
Yeah, I completely agree with your point. I guess, obviously, this is the great thing about this show. We're kind of talking about multi-race tickets and race by race and kind of different structures, and that's why we love doing this so much. I guess on my end, and maybe this is a better question for you, if you're playing a multi-race ticket, you have to include this horse, the 5, correct? How upset would you be, or would you not be upset if the 5 were to win, or do you think he's just not a true win candidate on paper?
Yeah, if I was playing multi-race, especially at a track like Santa Anita, where it does favor speed, and I want those horses up on the front end, I definitely think I would put him in there. I would much rather, I should say, have the 5 than the 6. I think the 5 will outrun the 6 in this spot. So I agree. Yeah. You use 4, 5, 7. I don't really have an argument for it. I mean, if you listen at the top of the segment, I said the 4 and 7 are the 2 that I think are must uses. I wouldn't mind throwing the 5 in there as well. I think it makes sense logically. And again, you got 3 shots there to beat what we think is going to be a favorite, and that pays more than anything in these multi races, is to get the favorite beat multiple times. And here's a spot where we can try to do it.
Yeah, there are a few comments here. Mike said he likes the 2 at a price. If you think the thing is going to heat up, then I definitely agree. If you think it's going to be 1 on the front end, then that's a horse you don't need. But running into a try, that would spice things up. Again, this is really about how much do you like or dislike Oil Can Night. Because if Oil Can Night runs, that's a little wordplay, Oil Can Night, if he can run, it's going to come in short, because we don't see the 4 or 7 necessarily missing the board. So I think that's one of those situations where you have to kind of be on our page. If you don't like Oil Can Night at all, then you could start throwing in prices and maybe they catch. It would be tough, I believe, for Oil Can Night not to hit the board from that perspective. But I do not like him as a win candidate. So that's why I use the 5, because if I get the 4 and 7 home, it won't pay that much. I just like that price. Anyone else that we didn't mention that you want to touch on? I kind of think we went over the main contenders for the most part.
Yeah, I do too. Michael Myers is asking, what about Bedrock? Yeah, I just think it's a little bit of a jump here. I wasn't thrilled.
I don't want to poke a hole in the theory. 2 wins with these types of horses, 2 wins in a row, it's something to factor in. The only problem here is 2 starts back, it was a condition claimer. I hate condition claimers to open claimers. I think that's a massive jump.
It is, yeah. Massive.
And then the next time out was 16,000 claimers at Los Alamitos. We've talked about it. The only person that I'm taking from that is Ricky Gonzalez. That's the only thing about Los Alamitos that I found that I could use here, because he was so good in terms of his riding style and the way he was so confident with his horses. It's open 16, so I guess that's an improvement. But you're talking about some horses, for example, the 4 was running at 35,000 open, 32,000 open, finished second. The 5, 40,000 open, 35,000 open. Your 7 that you love, 1 at 25,000 open. So I just think we're looking at a much, much better group of horses than he was facing. The other problem that I don't love is that he is going to be coming from behind, and I just like other horses that are going to be closing. It's one thing if he was the only closer or the only speed horse. Now we have a conversation, but I think a horse like the 4 might be coming from off the pace. If you like the 6 at all, he'll be coming from off the pace. So I just think this field is a little too tough. If you like a price, maybe a little win bet, but I just don't see that horse, to be honest.
My biggest problem with him is his time form numbers, and I don't use buyers. I couldn't tell you what they are, but the time form numbers seem to be a little bit lower than everybody else in this field. Consistently, he's just running a little bit slower, and that was kind of my biggest problem. Again, I think if you like the 2, then the 3 might factor in and maybe hits the board. Because if you like the 2, I think you're thinking the pace is going to kind of fall apart. I mean, the 3 is kind of going to need the same kind of thing. But I'm with you. I think if you're going to pick a closer, I think the 2 is a little bit better closer than the 3. I think he's got a little bit more turn of foot than the 3 horse does.
Yeah, and that's ultimately where we are. Mind you, this is from Curtis. Bedrock. A couple buyer numbers if you're interested in that. Again, we've been on the record saying we don't use buyers. That's not our thing. We are big time form people. Other people like to use other metrics. We are not telling you not to use other metrics. This is just what we're comfortable with. And that's fine. Whatever you find best to help your handicapping, we highly encourage you doing that. We are not being biased against buyers. That's what we feel. Let's move on to the next race. Mind you, there are scratches coming in, so we will try to. I will try to update this as we move along. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the scratches in before, so if you see us tinkering a little bit here and there, we are going to try to do so. Aaron, obviously, if someone else has some information about scratches, please throw it to us as well. We're going to.
Right here, this guy does. They just came out. So we lost nothing out of the 6th race. The 7th race, the 3 and the 5 have been scratched out of race 7.
The 3 and the 5. Okay, so I'll talk about 2 horses that I used beforehand. I'll kind of, it's granted, the price isn't updated. I will do that after I talk about these horses. So please try to stay with us as we move along. This is for the Megahertz Stakes for grade 3, fillies and mares, 4-year-old and upward, going a mile on the turf. That's 8 furlongs, 2 turns. The 5, who I really, really like, I want to say Epidemia's Girl. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That was the horse I kind of looked to and said would be on the lead, but we're going to forget that theory for a minute. We're going to try to tinker here. I'll probably play a little bit shorter of a ticket in terms of this. I just think Mucho Unusual just stands out here. I really, really like the fact that after her Breeders' Cup race, where she wasn't great, granted she was almost 66-1, she bounced back at almost a little short of 3-1, does really, really well. It was a really professional effort. I don't know what there was in that race to really test her necessarily, but what I will say, it's always nice to see how a mare bounces back in that next start. Aaron, I think you agree. It's real when you see 12th, you're always showing a question mark in terms of what is going on with her in the next start, and I think that was really nice for bettors to see. She's still a really, really quality horse. Just ran into much, much better competition at the Breeders' Cup. No surprise, it's the best in the world. But to run in a grade 3, similar to what this is going to be here, that was a little bit longer. It was nice to see that effort, and I think we would take 9-5 if we can get it.
Yeah, I think that scratch of the 5, that was the horse that really worried me the most, because the 5 was going to be lone speed in a race at Santa Anita on the turf, and that's always a little bit scary. But now with the 5 out, I think that's a huge scratch. The 3 we kind of thought would be out. Just ran a few days ago. I think it's just a applauding fest now with these 4 horses. None of them really like to go to the front. Now I believe the 6 will probably be the horse that kind of falls to the lead. The horse we just don't know about is the 1 coming over from Chile. That is Brooke, and I think that's just kind of that's the question mark of the race. If that horse is really good, obviously this is a spot you can win, because Mucho Unusual, while I'm going to pick her to win, I'm going to put a $20 win wager on Mucho Unusual. She's not unbeatable. I just think she's the class of this field, any way you try to slice it. And like I said, now I think the pace dynamic actually is going to help Mucho Unusual. And you might say, well, this is a closer and there's no pace. Yeah, but that also means Mucho Unusual is going to be much closer to the front, turning for home, than maybe she would have been if they've got a lone speed out there. So I really think they're all going to kind of just group up between 3 to 5 lengths of each other, and it's just kind of going to be a sprint turning for home. And I think that really favors Mucho Unusual. So with the scratches, I like him even better now. 9-5 morning line. I'm hoping we get about 6-5 even money, kind of double up the money here, and then have a couple of free shots going into the last 2 races where I think some money could be made with the exotics. So nothing fancy for me. Number 4, Mucho Unusual on top.
So with that, and we're seeing a lot of comments here. We do appreciate everyone kind of chiming in here with the scratches of the 3 and the 5. Again, we are really, really trying to do this on the fly. So we are seeing your comments. We love the feedback and all this. They're interesting comments. Before you could see my updated ticket. I kind of hit the all button, to be honest with you, for the mere fact I don't know who's going to be on the lead, and they are going to be grouped up, and I don't know who's going to be better if they're literally going to be sitting next to each other. Some of these comments are interesting, and Mike and I have talked about this all the time. I'll get to Mike's comment in a minute. 25-49 opening half. Yeah, I can see it. If it's going to be short of 25, it's going to be 24-4, literally. And 49, I wouldn't be surprised to see it even a tick slower, because who's going to want to press? Who's going to want to get to the lead when they're not comfortable? Mike's comment here. It's a New York pace. Yeah, that kind of goes along with Nick's point. Yeah, it's going to be slow. So look, I really like the 5 because I thought that would be the one that can get to the front and really just try to slow it down. At the same time, now we're kind of talking about this showdown here. Flavien Prat, Joel Rosario, and Umberto Rispoli. I don't know who I want necessarily in that spot. Can you blame? I'll ask you this. Can you blame me for hitting the all button? Because the way this is setting up now, I don't know if I'm going to get any value on just singling Mucho Unusual, because I think a lot of people had this theory. I'm going to use the 5. If the 5 can go gate to wire, sure, but Mutual Usual will run them down, or her down, I guess, necessarily. Now, I don't know who's going to be running who down. I don't know who's going to be coming from behind. And you have 3 of the best riders, and Jeremy Laprida, who Magic was telling us before, had to quarantine in Parks just so he could run here. So just so he could be on this mare. I mean, I don't even know what to do here. That kind of just threw my whole thing off. So, again, I hit the all button. Can you blame me?
Yeah, so I'll unpack a little bit of this here. First and foremost, no, I don't blame you for hitting the all button, because this race definitely, it's going to be, and Samaj said it best, it really is going to be a showdown and a tactical, chess match between the 3 best jockeys out in Southern California. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to consider there. And you're kind of right. Like Brooke now ridden by, her own jockey, that's great, but here he is at Santa Anita, and by the way, we're going to throw you on the turf. First time this horse has been in the United States, and hey, you get to go up against Prat, Rosario, and Rispoli. That's your competition. That makes me really, really scared to play Brooke here. I think Brooke's going to have to be much the best. My theory on why I'm sticking with Mucho Unusual, even more so, maybe a little more confident now, is if this goes down, or if it comes down to we're all kind of grouped together and we're closing all at once, the best closer is Rosario. There's no doubt in my mind the best closing jockey is Rosario. So if he can just hang Mucho Unusual in the race where she's within, range of these other horses, I think he can outfinish the other jocks. The horse that really, really scares me now is the 6, because to me, that horse is the only one that's capable of getting out and getting loose for the rest of the field. So how Rispoli rides the 6 is going to be the key to the whole thing.
Yeah, we're seeing some great comments here. I appreciate this one. That's not the one. It kind of went in. I can't find it. Oh, here we go. Here's this one that I do appreciate. We're kind of trying to make this work on the fly, so I appreciate that. Right, the one is interesting. To Nick's point, we don't really know about a Chilean horse, to be honest with you. I don't really even like that horse that much, but there are too many unknowns. Hasn't run since March 14th of last year. We know Simon Callahan's an unbelievable trainer. I mean, we were talking about, I think Magic told us this, and tell me if I got the facts wrong. They brought in the jockey and they're paying for him to quarantine in Pennsylvania. This guy's probably never been to Pennsylvania in his life, so now he's quarantining there for 2 weeks just to ride in a $100,000 race. All right, that seems like a serious move. I think Colonel Creed would probably be the one that you could throw out just because she got destroyed by Mutual Unusual.
Yeah.
But again, in a 4-horse field, I don't know. I don't want any of these. They're all going to be short prices for the most part. I just don't want any of them beating me.
Well, I mean, if you're going to play 3, you're going to play 4, right?
And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
To your point, exactly. And that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like you're reading my mind. Either you're playing Mutual Unusual, or you're going to take a stand and just single, or you're hitting the all button. To play 2 or to play 3 probably doesn't make sense. If you think one is just above the rest, and if you like the 5 and you were going to single the 5, well, that would have been gutsy anyway. And if you were paying attention to Lucky Peridot, well, she ran yesterday, so I've never seen a horse run 2 days in a row. Maybe you have, but this horse was going to be scratched. So if you did single the 5, this is another way where you can just kind of say, look, I singled the 5, now I don't know where to go. I just think hitting the all button, you got to allow your budget for it, or you're going to single somewhere else. This just got really interesting, and this is what we would say is a rider's race.
Yep.
Who's going to get the tactical position? If you're up front, how slow can you go, literally? And if you're behind, please don't get into any traffic trouble. Do not be sitting like third on the rail or like behind that horse on it. Please, like, just figure it out. There's 4 horses. Moving on to a race that is going to have more than 4 horses, we promise you, is the 9th race here. And this is actually, I believe, a much, much bigger field. And this was one that really kind of caught my attention. I didn't really know where to go. This is claiming 16,000 through 12,500 for 4-year-olds and upward. Did you like the 2 favorites? And by the 2 favorites, the 2 Tejan and the 9 Bam Bam again, or do you kind of see a price here? How did you kind of break this one down?
Well, like is a relative term, right? I don't like anybody in this race. So let's start with that immediately. This is just a bad race. There's just no other way around it. I did put the 2 on top. I think this horse getting back to the dirt is going to really help. It's interesting, though. This horse is 6 years old and has 5 career races. You just hardly ever see that. And it feels like a little bit of, all or nothing maybe with Tejan. Like, we're dropping way down. We're getting back to the dirt. We're getting everything our way again. But we've either won or we have been beaten badly. So it's a mixed bag for me with Tejan, but I do think the horse is the class of the field. So I put the 2 on top. The 9 Bam Bam again, another horse I like. As far as this race, I think the weight allowance with the apprentice jock is going to help. I think it always helps a speed horse. Even though last time out, a little bit of a speed and fade situation. But I think this field is much weaker, even though they're at the same level. I took a look back at that December 26th, $16,000 claimer. It was a tougher field for sure. And I think the reason for that was opening day. And even though it's a $16,000 claimer, people are ready to run. They're at that, even though it's a low level, they've got their better horses at that level ready to run. Now you come back and it's like, oh, this is the trash that we would normally see in a $16,000 claimer. So I think the 9, a little bit of advantage this time, and got that early speed. If he gets out and sets the pace again, he might be able to take him a lot further. So the 2 and the 9 were my top 2 choices. Then I'll kick it to you.
Well, you kind of took the words out of my mouth there, because I used the 2 and the 9. That's all I used. So I appreciate you taking up all the airtime. No, I'm kidding. Let's talk about a few of the other horses that I guess, I'm not going to tack on to the 2 or the 9, because I agree with everything you said. I think you took all the main points of what I was going to say and used them, which is fine. So let's talk about a few of the others that maybe are shorter prices, or maybe some long shots that we might have been interested in. I'll start with, I don't think there are any long shots, so let's not go that route. Let's look, the 6, for example, is an Ian Crueljack horse. Crueljack also owns. I always found that angle to be interesting, because they're obviously having the opportunity to place those horses themselves in the optimal positions. The problem with this horse is he looks like he's going to want to come from off the pace. And I'm searching really hard here. I did it last night when I was doing it. I'm doing it now. I did it this morning, and I can't seem to find any speed. I think the 9 is probably the most logical speed. And I'm barely saying that like I'm reluctant to say that because of his race last time out. At 4-1, I think he's significantly worse than the 9 at 7-2. And that's not even factoring in a layoff. That's what are we approaching now? Over 3 months. The 9 has class, even though they was 16,000. I think that 16,000 race, if you get a chance to watch it in the next maybe half hour or so, those horses are really, really good. Alvaro's really good, and Happy Happy's really, really good. And you can be good at your level. There's no such thing as, 16,000 claim you're not good at your level. Well, if you're consistently running well at that level, you're good for that level. And those horses are good at that level. And he was 12-1, the 9. We're talking about the 9. Bam Bam again was 12-1. And he will get another weight allowance with Jessica Pfeiffer again. So I think the 9 is the speed, but that's probably the only speed. So I don't like the 6. The one horse that was interesting, though, and I just wanted to touch on the 6 because I think that horse will get some money, and I really don't think so. What did you think of the 4? And the only reason I'm talking about the 4, Master Recovery, I know the race at Los Alamitos probably doesn't come back strong. I'm not looking at any time form figures. Maybe you are, so you could enlighten me after I finish here. This is one of those races where you're like, oh, goodness, this is a horse that finally just figured out how to win, can go the mile. And I would say this is a logical spot. I know Los Al isn't great, but when you're dropping from a 20,000 to this race, which he's going to come in for the 12.5 tag, that's probably where he belongs. So and this horse did show some speed, that could be the one horse that if you were going to not use the 2 and 9, or maybe you wanted to make a little bit of a bigger ticket, or maybe a win bet, that would be the horse that I would kind of look to. What do you think of that horse? Or are you just completely against him also?
Yeah, I mean, I can't be completely against anybody because I think it's a race where anybody can win. I don't know. I went back and watched the replay of the last race because I thought, wow, 5 lengths. If you win a $20,000 main claimer at Los Al and you win it by a head, it's like I wouldn't really give you a second thought. But 5 lengths, yeah, I should probably go look at this. And I don't know. I just thought the field just stumbled home, and this horse did finish well, so he does deserve credit. I'm not trying to knock him, but it's just like, man, I just don't think he beat hardly anything. And I think because you see a 5-length win in the past performances and you look at this field, I think the 4 is going to take more money than 6-1. I think the 4 is going to get bet. And so for that reason, I went away from him because I didn't really want any part of, I've already got the 2 favorites here, so I don't want any part of him in the trifecta. The horse that I use to spice up the try, by the way, I don't even know if I said it. I'm playing a 1-6, 1-2-6-9 trifecta box here for 50 cents. The horse that I thought, that's interesting, is the 1 Western Smoke. Now, hear me out. Last time out, 1,000-yard race at Los Alamitos on December 20th. He won. But, I like that the horse gets the rail today. I think the horse is going to show some speed out of a race like that. I don't know how well he'll stretch out. I almost think Western Smoke's going to be your pace setter here, though. And if we're talking about a lot of horses that are kind of stumbling home, yeah, he might be stumbling home too. In fact, he probably will be, probably no might about it. But if you're ahead of those other horses, sometimes they're tough to pass. So I thought the 1 might be able to get out to the front and just hang on and get third and really spice up the try. So that was a horse I looked to because I had the 2 favorites in there as well. You talked about the 6 for a second, and I agree. Kind of the same reasoning as the 1, only the opposite as far as he's going to come from off the pace, but could clunk up and get third and help you hit the trifecta. So yeah, I looked at the 1 and 6 and said, I think they might be board hitters, might be a little sneaky. I think the 6, I think he's not going to get bet. I think so the odds will go up a little bit on him. But yeah, I mean, you can go a lot of ways. I agree with your logic that the 2 or the 9 should win, and surely one of them will win if just one of the 2 show up. But if both of them do what $16,000 claimers tend to do sometimes, which is just not run very well, then it really becomes a mess.
Yeah, and this is why, folks, if you haven't listened to Magic, this is why I like him so much, because he brings the aqueduct and the East Coast flair to the comment. The 7 is bringing the Los Alamitos speed, and Edwin Maldonado is the California version of Kendrick Carmouche out of the gate. See, that this is something I can relate to, me being on the East Coast here. And it's kind of to your point about the 1. These horses that are coming from Los Al, that are coming out of when you see a big number and a Y, which is yards, it's kind of the same point where it's 1,000 yards. I think that's to Magic's point where that could be a potential speed horse. And I think if you're able to locate who the speed is going to be, that can give you a big deciding factor to who's going to win this race. Like Aaron said, if the 2 and the 9 don't show up for whatever reason, even though we don't anticipate that happening. Final race of the day. I thought this was another tough one as well, but for different reasons. This is for maiden claiming 50,000 through 45,000 for 3-year-olds going 1 mile on the turf. So they will have the entire stretch there to kind of sort themselves out before they get into the first turn. I really couldn't locate a horse that I loved, to be honest. I went much deeper here as opposed to the last race for a few different reasons. I'll take two, I guess, and I'll kind of throw it to you, Aaron, and you kind of pick up from there or add on to it. I thought the 3 Zaffa was interesting. And the reason being, so there's obviously plenty of pedigree. I kind of liked his race 2 starts back. Now, that was at Golden Gate Fields. But I kind of like the positioning from the fact I think he might be a little bit more forwardly placed today. Nothing about this horse indicates that he wants to go 6 furlongs. I don't know why he went 6 furlongs last time out, which was in 2021. Didn't really understand that move, so I'm willing to draw a line through it. I think this race is very similar to the one 2 starts back. He's going to drop in for a tag, so he's not facing maiden special weight runners. And again, I'm just willing to throw a line through the last one. And I look at this field, I don't really know who's going to go to the front. And maybe you can help enlighten me. But these horses all look like they want to come from off the pace. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was a horse that, I don't know, was a little bit more forwardly placed based on that effort 2 starts back. The other horse that I wanted to talk about was the 2, El Joy. I used, again, the 1, 2, 3, 10, but El Joy was one that I liked for the fact that I always like horses that are showing consistent progression. So it starts at the maiden special weight, was horrible, then gets a little bit better. Obviously, the odds indicate that he should be better. He was 2 and 3 wide the entire race in his first start on the turf. His next one at a maiden claiming 70,000 level, he almost got the job done at 12-1. How can you not use that horse coming off of that effort? Now, if you want to make the argument, I don't know if he's going to be able to, kind of repeat that effort. I guess that's one, you can make. But you have to use that horse because you look at the 1, Montpellier, I don't know if he's that much better than the 2. I don't. And I think a lot of people are going to see Ryan Hansen, Flavian Pratt versus Edwin Hardy and Juan Hernandez. I think the 2 and the 3 are horses. Obviously, they're going to be shorter prices, but I think they are upsets that they could definitely beat the 1 and 10. Where did you kind of go in this spot? Because I kind of saw this as wide open also.
Yeah, I think you got the situation where the 1 and the 10, they kind of seem like, well, these are the logical horses you got to use because they're both dropping out of, maiden special weights, and now they're in the maiden claiming ranks. That's the biggest drop in horse racing. So they're obviously horses that they're going to jump off the page when you look at a maiden claiming race. The problem I had and why I didn't go heavy and just use the 1 and 10 in some kind of exacta or try to play 1 to win is neither horse really did much running, right? There's just nothing that you can sink your teeth into and say, well, at least one of those races, they looked like they were in it. They've been pretty well beaten. You look at the 1, for example, raced 4 times in maiden special weight, really was never close. And last time out at Del Mar, this horse was 26-1. So, it just went backwards, basically, is what this horse has done. Gets Flavian Pratt aboard. Okay, so that's the big thing for the 1. Pratt has never been aboard this horse, jumps aboard today. Obviously a must use because of that. But, I still didn't trust him. So you look at the 10, it's like, okay, we ran in a maiden special weight. We got 6th, beaten 7th on debut. And now we're going right to a maiden claimer. We're giving up on this horse after 1 start. I didn't like that very well. So again, there are 2 horses, the 1 and the 10 the 1 and 10 that I did use, but I'm still just a little skeptical of just how good they are. So I played a 1, 2, 4, 10 trifecta box here. One horse I'll talk real quick about is the 4, logical progression horse, in my opinion. First time out, tried this horse on the dirt. It was awful. It wasn't good at all. Second race on the turf, really improved. It was an $80,000 maiden claimer. Now we're at a $50,000 maiden claimer. It's kind of the same thing. But as far as class levels goes, I should say. But it's just progression. And now I think 3rd start, I think we're in the exact right spot this time. I could see this horse running pretty well. 8-1 on the morning line. I thought that was just a horse you got to use to kind of spice things up. So the 4 was kind of I'll be honest, I almost said let's just play $10 to win on this 4, just because the progression might be there, and I see that he's adding blinkers as well. So that's never a bad sign. The horse hasn't had a ton of early speed, so maybe they're going to try to get a little bit of more early speed into the 4 today. The 2 was the other horse that I used in this race, and comes out of the same race as the 4. Watching the replay of the 4, I caught the eye of the 2, and I thought the 2, almost won basically at this level at Del Mar there. And another one, I just think progression. You look, okay, first start on the dirt, nothing. Second start on the turf, ran a little better, but still not great. Third start, much better. And now fourth start, I think we're going to see a pretty good race. So I mixed in the 1 and the 10, which are the class droppers, with the 2 and the 4, which I thought were the 2 best horses that have kind of been at this level already.
Yeah, and I just want to throw in real quick on the 10. I'm not disputing anything, so no one take this personally. I don't know if I want to be really short on a jockey that hasn't won yet here at the meet. Now, that's not to say, and that's coming into when the stats were as we're approaching this was one of the things that I looked at. Ruben Fuentes was 0 for 21. I'm not saying he's not a good rider. It's just always something to, and this is magic here. How dare you, Ruben? And Ruben won yesterday. Yeah. But that was my point when I was looking at this 2 days ago. When I was looking through this, Ruben hadn't won a race yet. So obviously that was one of my main points. So that was exactly why I came on here, to make sure that, yes, Ruben does have a win now. So if you're looking at it and you downloaded it like I did 2 days ago and it says there's a 0, just wanted to kind of point that out. But nonetheless, I still look at the 10 horse, and I think this horse is going to take way too much money. And there are a lot of, like your points, there's progression with other horses or tactical spots with other horses. So that's kind of how we kind of wrap up here. We're going to read off our final tickets before we get into a quick football segment that I want to touch on. We're not even going to go through all the games. We're going to play a little game, including what we saw football-wise over the weekend. I'll read out my ticket real quick. Again, if you came on at the beginning, it is updated. It's the 457 with the 1246, with the 29, with the 12310. That is $48. It was $36. We had the 5 in there with race 7. And that was a massive scratch that we kind of talked about a little bit earlier. So we're going to go with a $48 ticket here. Aaron, how did you kind of see out these 4 races?
Yeah, so race 6, I just went back to the horse that won at this level last time out and did a $10 win wager on number 7 Octopus. I really don't like many of the other horses in that race. Hopefully we get 3-1. That would be an amazing price. I think it's going to be more like 2-1, but I'll take that as well. The 7th race, it's definitely going to be a very unusual race, a 4-horse field on the turf going 1 mile. I went $20 to win on number 4, Mucho Unusual. I just feel like if this race turns into a closer type of race where they're all kind of bunched together turning for home, Rosario is the one I want in that situation. Race 8, completely wide open. I just went a 50-cent trifecta box, 1, 2, 6, 9. And then in race 9, same thing. I thought it was a wide open race. I thought you could count on the 1 and the 10 as far as the class droppers probably going to be there and run decent races. But I mixed in the 2 and the 4 as well. 50-cent trifecta box, 1, 2, 4, and 10.
So that wraps up our preview today. But it wouldn't be a Monday, or when we sometimes do it on Wednesday, if we didn't talk a little football. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to take turns. There were 4 games this weekend. This is what I want to do. And this is, I didn't even prep you with this. I'm going to give you 2 words to describe each team this past weekend. It could be positive. It could be, let's do 3 words. It could be positive. It could be negative, however you want to come out with it, but it can't be full sentences. We're going to be really quick and to the point so everyone can get to Santa Anita. We'll start first. We'll just go in logical order. I'll let you start first. The Los Angeles Rams, 3 words.
Too many injuries.
Okay, too many injuries. I think that's fair. They kind of went into the game shorthanded. Goff had the thumb injury. I completely agree. At full strength, they maybe come into that game and play a little bit better. Green Bay Packers. I'll let you go. I'm not going to talk on the Rams because I agree. Green Bay Packers, 3 words or less.
I'm gonna say 2 words. Legit contenders.
I'll go 1 word. I'll say favorite. I look at this team and I don't know how you're going to stop them. They had Jalen Ramsey on Devontae Adams. That was supposed to be the matchup. Devontae Adams won. We'll just kind of keep it at that. If you want to go check the box score, I think that would kind of solidify those words as well. All right, I have to do this. Ravens, 3 words or less. I'm going to say 2 words. New passing coordinator. That's 3 words. Guys, figure it out. Get him a passing coordinator. Get him something. Help him out. He's got to learn to develop I know one person has their hand on his face. They've got to help him develop. I'm not giving up hope moving forward. What I will say real quick, it was 10-3, and he threw a really, really bad interception that obviously changed the game. They were in the game the whole time. So I'm going to say new passing coordinator. That's what I'm looking for in the offseason.
So I'm going to say you are delusional is how I'll answer that. I think the Ravens have a lot of pieces. I don't think Lamar is going to be the answer. I think Lamar might get a lot of coaches fired because they want him to be the answer so bad, and you want him to be the answer so bad. He's not. He's average, period. That's him. He would be well below average, but he is such a great athlete that he can make plays and get the team, to beat the lesser competition. But the Bills just kind of shut him down. Forget about the interception for a second. Let's say the Ravens score on that drive. Maybe they win, maybe they don't, but they're not scoring more than about 17 points in that game.
And I don't disagree. But luckily, all you got to do is score more than the other team. I completely agree. He needs to improve. They do need a weapon here. Mike Myers is saying get Keenan Allen. The 2 other names I'd consider is Allen Robinson and Kenny Golladay. I don't think Keenan Allen will be coming to Baltimore. But necessarily, you do have an ultra rare talent. Even though he's not a good thrower, I will be the first to admit it, you have a talent. And if he goes to another team with better coaching, I wouldn't be surprised if they have more success. But again, we're gonna keep it short because we do want to talk about the team that did win, the Buffalo Bills. 3 words or less.
Oh boy. 3 words.
I can go first because I have 3 words.
Yeah, go ahead.
No hype needed, folks. They barely beat Baltimore. It was 10-3 before Lamar threw the pick. I'll be honest, the second best team in the AFC this week was the Cleveland Browns. I think the Bills and the Ravens deserve to lose. Someone said here, folding tables already.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Josh Allen better play better if they're going to win. So I'll throw it back to you. 3 words or less, or we could pass. If there's nothing there, we could pass and move on.
Yeah, I didn't want to be too harsh, but pretenders, I think they're just pretenders at this point. Listen, I don't know the status of Mahomes, and we'll talk about that maybe in a second. But if Mahomes doesn't play, the Bills definitely could make the Super Bowl. If Mahomes plays, they're not going to. It's really that simple. But the Bills are the worst team left, I think.
Yeah, we're going to get to the Mahomes comment there for a minute. Browns and the Chiefs. This game had more interest for you than it did for me, so I'll let you go if you want to. 3 words or less for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, the Browns' future is bright would be my words for the Cleveland Browns. They were overmatched yesterday. It was a 5-point game, but it really wasn't that close. The Browns really should have lost by a lot more, but I think the future is bright. I think the future is bright. The 3 words. They've got a lot of pieces. They've got to keep going. They've got to get some defensive players other than Myles Garrett. I mean, they are just really hurting defensively. And honestly, a huge key for the Browns, they need OBJ to come back and actually play like OBJ. That is a huge, huge key because the bottom line is, as good as the Browns offense kind of was towards, second half of the year, they did not have a go-to guy in that passing game. They have a lot of solid players, like Jarvis Landry, solid, really solid. Hooper, solid. Higgins, he's okay. But you think about, do they have Tyreek Hill? No. Do they have a Travis Kelce? No. So when they got the ball and they needed to make a big drive, they don't have a go-to guy. Jarvis Landry as your number one option, the other team can shut them down. He's great as a 2. So I think OBJ getting back, being healthy, putting out a max effort now that he sees this team is pretty good, I think that's a huge key for the Browns as well that nobody's really talking about.
I tried, folks, to keep it to 3 words or less, but I know he's really passionate about Baker Mayfield and really passionate about the Browns, so that's okay. My 3 words would be found their coach. I think they really found their coach with Kevin Stefanski. This is not a shot at Freddie Kitchens. I'm just going to leave it at that. I think they really have something for it. On the OBJ thing, he never wanted to be in Cleveland. I don't think that's the system for him to thrive. I'm not saying he's not a good player, and he can't be. That is just not going to be the system for him to go out there and get 6 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. Got nothing to do with him, has nothing to do with anything else outside of that's just the system. There's a comment here, Nick Chubb played poorly. Yeah, you need your running backs in that system to play well. Kevin Stefanski was able to get Dalvin Cook to play really, really well. Dalvin Cook is one of the best running backs. He would have been good with any coach. But Chubb and Hunt are the guys, when you start talking about the Cleveland Browns, it kind of starts and ends there. I don't disagree with you about Odell. It's just one of those things. It's just not that system. Maybe if he comes back healthy, maybe they could revamp things and get more going. For the Kansas City Chiefs, I will just say winner's pedigree. We have talked before because it's literally, I'll always refer back to horse racing. There are horses that know when they step on the track and they're about to get into the gate, it's go time. The Chiefs were well on their way to a blowout in my books if Mahomes doesn't get hurt. In his first 7 drives, they had a few touchdowns, a few field goals, and then the injury where he got hurt. The drive he got hurt. And that would have been another more likely field goal or a touchdown. Chad Henne was Chad Henne. He was okay, good enough to get the job done. But the winner's pedigree really comes from the defensive side. When they had to get stops at the end of the game, they did. Andy Reid draws up a great play to get Tyreek Hill the ball, and that was it. Tyreek Hill, again, winner's mentality, stays in bounds, goes down, ball game. So I would just say winner's mentality or winner's pedigree. 3 words or less on the Chiefs for you.
Yep, I'm with you. Championship football. You said it best. 22-17, 8 minutes left in the game. The Browns get the ball on the 20-yard line right after they had put together their best drive of the game by far. And also a terrible interception by Chad Henne. The script was there for the Browns to take us 8-minute drive and win the game. And they couldn't even get a first down because the defense for the Chiefs really stepped up and stopped them when they had to. And listen, the Chiefs cannot win without Mahomes moving forward, but they may not have to. I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, I completely agree. Sometimes just good teams know how to kind of get the job done, and that's what they did there. Final game, and I thought the best game of the weekend, in my opinion, was in a relatively boring football playoffs. I'll be brutally honest. Yeah. New Orleans Saints. I want to start with the losers. New Orleans Saints. 3 words or less for you.
Yeah, goodbye, Drew Brees. Right. I mean, I hate to see that he went out like that, but he's done. You look at older quarterbacks around the league; they don't look like him. He just looks bad. He doesn't look like he's got the arm anymore. Hated to see it, but he just wasn't good enough.
Philosophy change. And those are my 2 words, philosophy change. I do agree, Drew Brees, it's kind of time for him to move on. Look, he's the type of guy that he'll leave on his own terms. If he wants to be back for another year, he will be. He's done unbelievable things for that city. He almost single-handedly helped bring that team back after Hurricane Katrina. So he owes nothing to that city, owes nothing to the game. I'm looking at Sean Payton. Hey, you know what? For as much of an offensive genius as you are, you lose too many games when you face other coaches. You lost to the Vikings at home, I believe, last year. And Drew Brees might leave his legacy with 1 Super Bowl. Not good enough. Mind you, he had the defensive bounty gate scandal on his resume also. Is not his fault necessarily in terms of he wasn't the main guy, but when you are the head coach, you are in charge of the house. Whatever happens in the house, your responsibility. Yeah. Moving on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which I thought was the most impressive team. I will say this, and I will stick my head out. One word, pretenders. I do not see this team going to Green Bay and being able to run the ball on the Packers. I do not see this team being able to go there and sling it around like they did in the Dome. I do not see it. I think this game is going to be a double-digit win for the Packers. Unless I see something otherwise, I'm going pretenders. But I will say Tom Brady gets an A+ for this season no matter what. No shortened off season, COVID, new weapons, complete different philosophy change with a similar West Coast to an air raid attack. A+ for him, but I think they're pretenders this week.
Trust the GOAT. That's where it goes for me, man. Listen, Tom Brady, he's old as hell too, and he just doesn't look it. He just keeps slinging the ball around. I don't know what's going to happen in that game. I'm just glad Tampa's in it, and it's just more interesting when Tom Brady's around. I'm with you. I think Green Bay is a much better team. I bet it's closer than you think, though. I bet they give it a fight. I also kind of agree with your logic on Green Bay real quick that you said they were the favorites. I agree with that. I think right now they are. The Chiefs, there's something wrong with the Chiefs. They've got a little problem. I don't know what it is, but they just to keep holding, like playing the Browns and it's a 7-point game. Like people say, yeah, Mahomes got hurt. Well, the Chiefs kind of just stopped themselves. Like that game should have been a 20-point game when he got hurt, They just make a lot of mistakes, and eventually they're going to play somebody good enough to beat them if they play like that. And I think Green Bay could be the ones.
Yeah, I completely agree. Aaron Rodgers, not only the best football player this year, I don't want to say he's better than Mahomes. He's been the best football player this year, I believe, offensive and defensive. He will win the MVP. I don't know what Matt LaFleur and the crew was thinking when they drafted Jordan Love, but if they thought it was a pure motivation standpoint, congratulations, because you might get yourself a Super Bowl by motivating Aaron Rodgers. Arguably the best season I believe he's 37, arguably the best season a 37-year-old has ever had. And he looks better. He looks like he can play another 5 years as well. Yep. Real quick, we'll talk about next week's game. Just first instinct, Packers. We'll start with Packers Bucks. Excuse me. First instinct. Which way would you lean? No spreading, Bob. Which way would you lean?
I think Packers win this game by 10. Let's say.
Yeah, I agree. I would say Packers by 10 as well. I'm gonna say the Bills beat the Chiefs. The only reason I say that is because this kind of reminds me of just a magical season that the Ravens had when Ray Lewis was on his way out the door. This just kind of seems like a magical season for the Bills. Nothing more than that. I don't think they're the more talented team. I don't think they have the most weapons. But Stephon Diggs coming to that team is arguably one of the biggest trades that will go down in the history of this league. And it will be if they are able to beat the Chiefs and ultimately win the Super Bowl. So I will go out on a limb and say I don't like what I've seen from the Chiefs. The Browns managed to keep it close when they shouldn't have. I will take the Bills against the Chiefs, first instinct.
I definitely disagree. I think the Chiefs win the game. I'm done saying the Chiefs are going to blow anybody out because they just don't. But I do think they're just better. I don't think when it gets right down to it, the Bills are going to have enough to win. And I think the Bills can score like in the 20s, but I think they're going to have to get in the 30s to win the game. I don't think it's going to happen. I wish Josh Allen, not even so much Josh Allen, just the whole offense at Buffalo would have shown a little more the last 2 weeks. Maybe put up 34 against the Colts. Maybe, not look absolutely awful against the Ravens, And I know part of it was the Ravens defense played very well the last half of the year, and that's fine. But still, they just didn't do much. You think they scored 17 points, and one was an interception that was just given to them that they took back. So I don't think they have enough firepower. I don't. I definitely think Green Bay does. I think it's going to be Kansas City, Green Bay.
Yeah, the one again, I think it was an underwhelming weekend overall. I think the first weekend was better with 6 games total. This weekend wasn't great, I'll be honest. Right here, we have Tampa already beat them this year. The Saints also beat Tampa twice coming into yesterday's game. That didn't mean anything. The Colts and the Ravens have better defenses than the Chiefs. All right, well, that's fine. One has Phillip Rivers, one has Lamar Jackson, the other team has Patrick Mahomes. Will Josh Allen have to wear his Superman cape? I think he will, because they can't run. They showed against Baltimore that they can't run. I just look at this game, and I think that we will be talking about Josh Allen as the second best quarterback in the AFC, win or lose. And I think the addition of Stephon Diggs has changed this team. But again, that's first instinct. Haven't done any research, haven't looked at anything like that. So that's just first instinct. I don't like the way Kansas City's really going right now. So it's more about Kansas City not playing well. Without further ado, that will be it for today. Thank you guys for tuning in to a special Martin Luther King Day edition of the Rocket Hour. We will be back on Wednesday. Again, make sure you check your scratches and changes before today's first post, and we will see you guys on Wednesday. Take care, everyone.